I'm going to list some teams, and I just want you guys to say whether or not you think they're contenders or not. Like true contenders. Genuine true contenders. And
put money on them.
there is a commonality between all of these teams, and I'll explain what it is after we go through each team.
Oh, we got a game.
So number one, and these are in no order. These are just based on the teams that fit my criteria. There is no order, I promise. Number one, Denver.
Yeah.
100%.
I agree. Number two, Boston.
Yeah.
Number three, OKC.
For sure.
You consider them true contenders this year?
On equal footing with those two, personally. Their net rating was great. Offensive rating's great. Defensive rating's great. And it's been getting better throughout the year. It started off good, now it's great.
I'm going to go no, personally.
Okay. So, does anyone want to guess what the consistency between those three teams is?
Nope.
Top 3 in net rating?
A consistent sign of a true contender throughout NBA history is you have to be top 10 in half-court offense and top 10 in half-court defense. Right now, those three teams are the only teams in the NBA that are top 3 in all of those. Or top 10 in all of those. And I think if you go back throughout NBA history and you look to see like how consistent that is, it has like a 90% success rate. Like it's very, very, very consistent. So with OKC, I also think it's probably a little too early to consider them a contender. But Denver and Boston, to me right now, those are kind of the two that I'm like, we've seen enough to know they're legit.
Yeah, I honestly think OKC next year is a yes for me. I think they just need to do 1 year of being a very good team before I'm going all the way to championship.
Let's take a look at the top, we'll say top 5 in estimated plus minus. And if you're a longtime viewer of the show, you guys know I don't care much for like all-in-one advanced stats, but I feel like EPM is one that typically is fairly accurate in a lot of ways.
The value of an advanced stat like that, if you put that stat through and you're getting like all of the best players in the NBA are the best in this stat, there's probably some legitimacy to that stat.
Right. So with that being said, let's look at the top, we'll say the top 10 in EPM right now. Number 1, Nikola Jokic. That passes the smell test pretty easily.
Yes. Yeah.
Number 2, Joel Embiid. Also passes the smell test. He's been amazing this year. Number 3, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That one, he's been amazing.
Up on that might be.
It's a little bit higher than I would have expected, but top 10 I would have expected from him.
Yeah.
Number 4, Tyrese Halliburton. I think that passes the smell test.
Better than Ja.
I've come around on that. We could talk about that at a different time. But number 5, Chet Holmgren.
Wow. Yeah.
According to EPM, Chet Holmgren is a top 5 player right now. I am a Thunder fan. I wouldn't say that, but
yeah.
I personally think it is really hard to argue a whole lot of players over Chet Holmgren for like an all-star appearance this year.
Yeah, you could definitely convince me he's a top 25 player in the NBA.
Yeah, easily. I think that's not a stretch.
And honestly, if anything, a couple of players on OKC this year have been like marginally disappointing or just like not really improving all that much. Really, I feel like Lou Dort's the only guy who's like jumped up significantly in terms of the quality of his production, and mostly in part because he's dialed back what he's done, which is what we've always wanted to see.
Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks fixed their games.
Right. But then ultimately, I think Chet is the real difference maker between OKC being OKC last year and being OKC now. Like he, on both ends of the floor, makes them so much better and does it so seamlessly. Like everything fits. It's so well orchestrated. He fits so well on offense. It complements everybody's skill set. It's just he's just brilliant, man.
It's funny because, like, to me, the biggest criticism that you can make about Chet so far is that sometimes he is too hesitant to shoot it.
Yeah.
Which is wild that, like, he's a 50, 40, 90 player right now.
Isn't he still shooting 50% from 3 right now? He's a 50, 50, 90 player right now.
Yeah, I'm actually curious now that you mentioned that. He's 50, 40, 87 right now.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking close. I do think that he should shoot like maybe even double the amount of threes that he is. That's really the only thing that I would give him, is that he especially like pump fakes on shots, and I'm like, dude, you can just go up with that.
Yeah. I'm curious what because I've noticed over the last like 5 or 6 games, I feel like he's been seeking his own shot in the mid-range a lot more. But on the season, he's shooting 50%. He's shooting 50% in the mid-range.
That's really good.
That's really good. Yeah. The Kevin Durant comparisons kind of are like...
Being that good from mid-range as a rookie center is fucking bananas.
Well, we gotta remember, he's not a real rookie.
Oh, okay.
Just stop. I'm
not doing that. I really don't give a shit.
I won't validate that argument with airtime on the pod.
Give him DPOY, but give Wembanyama the Rookie of the Year, you know?
If you win DPOY as a rookie, you are also Rookie of the Year, unless you just have some outlier offensive player. But Chet is also a better offensive player than Wemby right now. I think more so situationally, I think Chet's a better three-point shooter regardless of context. But also the Spurs, as I've pointed out, piss me the fuck off with how they utilize Wemby.
Also, I want to say something about Wemby, and I don't have a problem with him taking threes and just like experimenting with his role and trying like basically whatever he wants, because I think that's great for his development. Just like have that freedom, see what you can get away with, and then they'll fine tune your role over the years. That being said, I think one of the bigger criticisms you can make about Wemby is that he takes too many threes.
Yeah, I think
that man loves threes.
Chet and Wemby need to trade their 3-point attempts. Chet needs Wemby's 3-point attempts, and Wemby needs Chet's 3-point attempts. Get a cool 3.5 up per game, Wemby. We're good with that. But like straight up, like in part, I again think that's the Spurs not doing anything correctly in regards to how Wemby is utilized. Like the game where he had 38 points, I hoped that would be like an eye-opening thing for them of just like throw the ball vaguely at the rim. He has a 20-foot wingspan. No one else is going to get it. He's going to lay it up, and he's going to get at least 10 easy points per game just off of that alone. But they stopped fucking doing it after that one game. They maybe do it once or twice a game. And it's truly baffling to me.
Spurs have this one action. It's basically what you're talking about. I wouldn't even call it a play. It's more like something that just happens periodically throughout the game, where they do exactly what you're asking, where it's like throw the ball in the slight direction of the rim, and then Wemby's just going to catch and immediately lay it in. Oftentimes, the immediacy of that lay-in is so quick that it looks like an alley-oop where he doesn't jump.
Yeah.
Like he's probably done that 20 times this season.
That's the thing that I pointed out specifically about that game, is that his ability to get the ball and it's immediately in the rim, like he makes the move so fast. Like it's not just that he's tall, it's that he's remarkably coordinated with that height and length.
I'm starting to get a little tinfoil hat with the Spurs here. I kind of feel like that the whole we're trying to make Jeremy Sohan a point guard and like we're going to make baffling personnel decisions. I feel like they're just tanking. Like this is about as blatant of tanking as you can get, which is fine. I mean, if you want to tank, but
this doesn't
also
feel
don't
like
expect me to like believe that you're actually trying to make Jeremy Sohan your point guard. Like
from what I understand about this upcoming draft, everyone that I have ever heard talk about it has been like, this draft's all right. It's not an exceptional one. There's not some like genuinely even close to generational prospect available. And I feel like I always feel like if you get a player that can be as good as I think Wemby can be right now in the right context, I think you don't waste time. Like, I think so many teams take for granted, especially given this era where players leave teams pretty easily, they take for granted how little time you actually have to convince that guy to stay past their rookie extension. And I say the moment you've got that guy, try to win now. I think overall building through the draft is a little bit overrated. Obviously, it'd be cool if they got Isaiah Collier, or I know there's some 5 who's a big deal, like something Sarr. I don't know much about the draft, obviously.
Sarr, yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's being mocked as like a top 5 pick anymore, but yeah, your point stands. Yeah,
right. I think it'd be really cool. I mean, I did this in my Spurs series. I think it'd be really cool just for the Spurs to draft another 7-foot big man, just to be like comically large in the backcourt or front court. But yeah, either way, it pisses me off how they're playing Wemby. That's the main point. I get a little bit the like idea of letting him just figure it out within a nothing offense in terms of like creating his own shot and all of that. But I don't know. It's just disastrous efficiency from him. And it's also like, even if Wemby is a good shot creator in the future, I don't think that's going to be his primary offensive skill set. I don't think, like, I know he's done like Kevin Durant-esque things, but I don't think Wemby, when he's at his peak, is just going to be, we're giving him the ball and he's taking it at the top of the key and he's going to put up a mid-range shot. I just don't think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah. I agree.
Unscripted Wemby thing, but now let's talk about the Bucks. Yeah, the Bucks. They lost to the Bulls.
Frauds, right?
Yes.
Dame no good anymore. Giannis, not the best player in the world. Brook Lopez can't do anything but shoot threes, apparently.
Where's this coming from? You're going a little hard. I think people take for granted, like, just because your record's good doesn't mean everything necessarily. Because as you've pointed out, like, the net rating for this team is not great. They keep barely scraping by in games where they should be blowing their opponent out. And it's like, yeah, ultimately they have a pretty positive record, one of the best records in the NBA, but they also don't look like they would last a second in a series versus the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, they would get eaten alive with this defense. Right. They would get chewed apart by the Celtics. And that's not like, some people think I'm a I get comments whenever I make a Celtics video. People will be like, "Are you a Celtics fan?" I'm like, "No, the Celtics are just really good, and it's hard to have like a ton of negative things to say about them."
Don't they have like the best half-court offense basically ever?
They have, so there's a stat, I don't know if you're referring to the stat that I mentioned in my video, but their starting five right now has the fourth best half-court offense of the last decade. Like, it's insane. They're on par with, like, not just the 2016 Golden State Warriors, but also like the Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors. Like, they're that good. It's insane. This team is a well-oiled machine. And the fact that this is turning into a Celtics segment, but I'm going to do it anyways. The fact that they're so good that their starting lineup is incredible, and then like their bench weighs them down like a fairly significant amount. Granted, they've had injuries and whatnot, and have been experimenting with some different guys in the lineup. The fact that their overall net rating as a team and their overall half-court offensive numbers are still as good as they are, despite the fact that like they've had bench players that have played well, but in general, they're doing this as like their starters are just so overwhelmingly good that it really doesn't matter that much how good your bench plays, because the starters are going to obliterate anyone in front of them regardless.
Yeah, I think Kristaps Porzingis kind of unlocked the offense, because just his role within everything just almost guarantees a great shot every possession. And this, I think the quality of looks that they are getting so easily is like, hopefully at least, knock on wood, going to knock out the inconsistency that has always plagued the Boston Celtics. The problem for them always is they'll just have like a 7-minute stretch in the game where their offense is atrocious and they lose the game because of that stretch. But I haven't seen that happen in any game that I've watched from them. Even the Hornets one, I think they were just kind of bad from the onset outside of Jason Tatum. But in general, they're pretty much kicking ass all the time.
Yeah. And I talked about this in the video that I just did on the Celtics. If you look at their frequency of three-point attempts this year, like, they're attempting a ton of threes, and then the rest are like, it's mostly threes, shots at the rim, and the amount of mid-ranges are very, very low. Like, the amount of mid-ranges they're taking is among the lowest in the NBA right now. And
I imagine their percentage is super good on it, because they have a lot of guys that are great at it. So it's like, even when you are taking a mid-range shot, it's probably pretty efficient. Right.
Efficiency across the board generally has not been an issue for them. And one thing I mentioned in the video is that a lot of people conflate like offenses being designed to take a bunch of threes and shots at the rim, like they're actively seeking out those shots. And with the Celtics, at least, other teams you can say that, yeah, like if you look at the Houston Rockets from back in the day, this was an amazing team, but their offense was designed to generate shots at the rim and shots from three, just tons and tons of spread pick and roll stuff like that. But the Celtics, they're not generating a ton of shots at the rim in three, like necessarily by design. It's just because their offense is so good that it is naturally generating what people consider high percentage looks. It's not that they're actively seeking those out. It's the fact that the way they're executing just inherently leads to those kinds of shots, which to me is a more promising sign for them going forward than an offense that is like kind of forcing the issue. The Celtics sometimes definitely force the issue, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're forcing the issue this season. Back to Milwaukee.
Dude got in his bag.
Interesting thing about Milwaukee to me is that despite how mid they've been in terms of their net rating, there is a promising aspect of their season so far, and it comes with kind of a caveat. Their offensive rating in the half court this year has been spectacular.
Yeah.
As a half court offense, they've been the third best in the league, behind Indiana, who is currently like statistically the greatest offense ever. I don't know if they still are, but to start the season, they were statistically the greatest offense ever. But Milwaukee is not far behind them in the half court, at least, at 103.3 points per 100 possessions in the half court, which if you don't know, that's very, very much above league average. However, defensively in the half court, they are giving up 98.5 points per 100 possessions, which
that's brutal.
Isn't good.
That's brutal. That's crazy, man. I don't understand it because, like, obviously we all anticipated that the defense would be worse trading Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. That's a no-brainer. However, the one thing about defense in the NBA is that regardless of how big three-point shooting is, the goal is always to get to the rim. The spacing and the era of three-point shooting, one of the many reasons that made offense more efficient wasn't just because teams were, three is more than two, but also because it spread the floor and made more ground to cover to protect the basket, making it easier to get to the rim. So I kind of lost my train of thought. The point, I remember what it was. Okay, sorry. The point is, if you can protect the basket, you're still probably going to be a pretty good defense, even if your perimeter defense is not great. Now, that can bite you in the ass in the postseason, but at least in terms of regular season success, I would think Brook Lopez and Giannis as your defensive players who can protect the basket, you would still ultimately be a positive defense. And I feel like they have to be dropping the ball in some degree, because like I understand like they're having to work a little bit harder because guys are getting blown by a lot easier than they used to be. But ultimately, that's got to be points in the paint that they're fucking up, because that's where I would think they would at least ultimately be a positive defense.
So to me, it's like they've just been really mid. Like their net rating, they've just been mid. Like the efficiency that they're allowing at the rim like isn't bad. It's around league average. Like they're giving up 65% at the rim, which league average is 65% at the rim. They're not giving up like an overwhelmingly like amazing efficiency from three. They're giving up 36.9% from three a game, which is literally 0.1 away from league average. It's like their offense is really good, but their defense is just mediocre, and it's dragging mediocre to bad. It's like the ceiling for their defense is mediocre and the floor is bad.
I'm curious what the paint attempts like per game looks like versus last year.
Because giving away Drew Holiday theoretically means like more of an open lane to the basket. Whether you're running into Brook Lopez or not, the point of Drew Holiday is to prevent him from getting to the paint.
Yeah, like you're ultimately giving up more paint attempts, at least I would think, and that's what it looks like based on the eye test. But you've got the stats, so
I mean, it's about the same. It's like a 1% difference, but
really.
I think,
last year from mid-range at this point, I'm just, how is this even bad?
I mean, defensively last year at the rim, they were obviously better. And I think schematically on the defensive end, they're still, trying to accomplish the same thing, like funnel teams towards Giannis and Brook down low. But whereas last year you had Drew Holiday chasing guys off the 3-point line, coming off of screens, now you have like Damian Lillard and Malik Beasley. So like Giannis and Brook are
Beasley, the lockdown defender, apparently.
Right. we touched on this before, where like last year Brook and Giannis didn't have to make up for as many mistakes because it was Drew
Mhm.
Holiday in the backcourt. And then now it's like, they have to cover for Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard a lot more.